If you're watching this video, you might be one of those business owners that think that every solution to every single problem they get is to scale faster or alternatively get more leads. Sound familiar? It certainly does for me because I was in that position until I learned better. Now, what if I told you that 74% of businesses fail because they try to scale too early? And what if the research showed that businesses spending the most on scaling their actual business are actually the ones that are going out of business the fastest? And what if I could prove to you with real math that trying to scale your business right now, even if you have leads coming in, is actually the worst thing you could do for your bank account? I know it sounds super crazy, but stick with me through this video. And today I'm specifically going to show you the 3 warning signs that you're not ready to scale. And again, you can flip this on its head that if you are passing these 3 signs, you are in a position to scale, okay? And I'm also going to show you why most business owners are completely ignoring these signs and the exact steps you need to take to fix your foundation before you are ready to scale or before you go to scale. Because look, the truth is that trying to build on top of something that isn't or that's already broken doesn't make you grow faster. It makes you fail faster and projects you faster towards that end goal, which again, all of our end goals here is to scale our businesses and not to have our businesses fail. But again, if you're building and scaling on top of something that is broken, it's basically like building a house on sand, right? And we all know how that story goes. Now, let me start off with some facts that might make you feel uncomfortable. And I wrote this down here so I don't get this wrong specifically, but there is actually a research, and according to a startup genome report, which analyzed over 3,200 high growth companies, premature scaling accounts for 70 to 74% of startup failures, which is insane. But here's what's even more shocking about that stat. 93% of companies that scale prematurely never break past the $100,000 per month revenue threshold. Crazy. And another research study done basically done by Harvard Business School shows that the failure rate of companies after 5 years is more than 50%. And that actually climbs to 70% after 10 years. Now, you might be thinking, well, I'm not a startup. I already have a business with leads coming in. But here's the thing. Having leads doesn't mean you're necessarily ready to scale. In fact, it might mean the opposite. And let me show you why specifically. You see, most business owners see leads coming in and think, great, let's hire more salespeople and increase our ad spend, right? But what most business owners don't realize is that they're actually about to make the same mistake that's killed 74% of businesses, which is scaling on top of broken systems. Okay, now let's look at the first sign. So sign number 1 over here, we're going to put down so we can just keep track of all of this, is your lead to appointment conversion, right? So again, lead, actually, let me make this a little bit better here. I apologize. Sign number 1 is lead to app. Okay, so how many leads are you converting into actual appointments? Okay, now the first sign you're not ready to scale is if your lead to appointment conversion rate is low and you think the solution here is to get more leads. Okay, here's what's actually happening in most businesses, right? Let's say, for an example, in any given month you are getting 100 leads, and again, no earnings claims here. This is specifically just an example. Your numbers will look different because your offer is different, your price tag is different, everything is different in your business. But again, let's just call this example Fred's example, right? So in Fred's example over here, Fred got 100 leads on any given month, and let's just say about 20 of them converted into book calls, right? So that's a 20% booking rate, okay? Now, most businesses will look at this and basically say, well, we need 500 leads to get 100 calls, okay? Including myself. I've said this so many times before. But here's what the research shows about those 80 unconverted leads between the 100 leads coming in and 20 of them booking a call. what happened to those 80 leads, right? And again, here is what the research shows, and I got this pulled up here. According to a study done by Lead Connect and Forbes, specifically on lead response times, if you respond to leads within 5 minutes of them actually coming in, you get an 85% conversion rate. And if you basically get in touch with them within 30 minutes, that drops to 60%, right? And after 24 hours, it plummets to just 10% according to this study, okay? Now again, some of those numbers might be vastly different in your business, but again, we're looking at studies here and drawing conclusions on what data is telling us, right? Again, but the average business takes about 47 hours to respond to leads according to the study as well. So these specific 80 unconverted leads or uninterested leads, well, they were probably very interested, but again, you took too long to respond. Okay, now here's some math that would absolutely blow your mind. Well, at least it blew my mind. If you implement basically proper follow-up systems and convert just 20 more of these unconverted leads, right? And that's about 25% of them, you would go from 20 book calls to 40 book calls, okay? And that's 100% increase in appointments without spending another dollar on ads or, tweaking your funnel copy or moving to a different platform or getting more creatives out there, okay? But again, most business owners just ignore this, okay? And they simply say, well, let's just spend 10,000 more on ads to get more 500 leads, when they could potentially have doubled their results by fixing their follow-up processes, right? Because again, this is all about, and we preach this on the channel a lot, it's about increasing the efficiency of the funnel you currently have. You don't necessarily need more leads, you need to convert more of the leads you're currently getting. Okay, and this is the number one sign you're not ready to scale. You're not trying to solve a conversion problem with a traffic solution, or you are trying to solve a conversion problem with a traffic problem. Okay, so let's look at sign number 2 here, that you're not ready to scale. And sign number 2 is that your sales team is underutilized, right? So I'm just going to jot down here, sales team. So in this specific example, right, this is the second sign you're not ready to scale. So what does this mean if your sales team is underutilized? Okay, well, maybe your sales team is not at the efficiency point that they need to be, and you're thinking the solution here is just to hire more salespeople. And trust me, this is exactly what we do for our clients here at Sales Match. We go out and we find the very best closers or setters that matches their offer, right? So obviously it would be in my best interest to tell you guys, hey, hire, hire, hire. But that is not always the truth, right? And a lot of times we basically deny a lot of people because we say, hey, you're not at a point where you need to be to hire top talent, right? You need to fix what's broken right now before you can go out and hire top talent. Because again, if your systems are broken and you go out and you hire really good talent, you have to retain that talent. And if your systems are broken, top closers and setters are going to leave your organization and they're not going to want to work with you and your team. Okay. Now, here's another statistic that I found that would actually shock you. At least it shocked me. Now, according to a Salesforce study, sales reps only spend about 28% of their time actually selling. That's barely 2 days per week selling. And the rest of the time is spent on research and lead generation, administrative tasks, internal meetings, and data entry. Now, here's the critical question I have for you. If your existing sales team is only selling 28% of their time, why would you hire more people to be 28% more efficient, right? Now, again, let me show you the math here. Let's just say you have, 2 salespeople that could each handle, 20 calls per week if they were fully utilized. Okay, that's about 40 calls per week. Okay, now let's just back up here a little bit, right? Because they're only 28% efficient, they're actually only taking 11 calls per week combined instead of 40 calls, right? Now, most business owners see this and think, we need to hire 2 more salespeople to get 40 calls, right? And this is something, I talk to business owners all the time about. It's like, no, you have to increase the efficiency, right? Because if you're gonna hire top talent, right, and there's so many administrative tasks and they gotta do this and then that and then follow up and then do maybe lead gen as well, it basically decreases the efficiency of the closers you're having, right? And at the end of the day, your closers need to do what they do best, which is close. Everything else around that is noise and needs to be taken care of, whether that's through an executive assistant or even having what I've done as well is provided our sales guys with assistants to handle the administrative tasks and so on and so forth, okay? Now, again, smart businesses will basically say, well, how do we get our existing 2 salespeople to be 80% efficient so that they can handle 32 calls per week combined, right? Now, the difference here is that hiring 2 more people, right, which will probably add around, again, these numbers are going to be completely different because you pay a different commission than I do, but again, hiring 2 people will, in our business specifically, be over $200,000 in additional salary and commission costs, right? Now, increasing the efficiency, right, by spending maybe $5,000 in, basically processes improvements or automation with data entry specifically, right? Now, again, research will show that 79% of sales executives say improving the productivity of existing sales reps is a key factor in hitting new targets. Again, this is all just data, right, that I'm throwing at you here. But again, this is the number 2 sign that you're not ready to scale. You're trying again to solve an efficiency problem with a headcount solution. You're basically looking at your sales team and saying, well, they can only handle, 11 calls per week combined, right? Or, well, basically, if we need to get to 40 calls a week, we need to hire, 4 times the amount of salespeople. Not true. Basically, what I'm asking here for you and what I have found specifically is focus on the efficiency of your closers first, right? Simplicity scales, because let me ask you this, would you rather have a sales team of 4 people or a sales team of 1 or 2 people, right? In my experience, it's way easier working with 1 or 2 people than working with 4 people, because at the end of the day, once you get above 4 or 5 closers on your team, my recommendation at that point in time is you need to install a sales manager, right? Because otherwise you as the founder are going to get congested in the day-to-day with administrative tasks and so on and so forth with the current team that you're having, right? So again, increase the efficiency of the team you're currently getting, and that is the sign number 2 that you're not ready to scale. Now let's move into the sign number 3 that you're not ready to scale, and this is a golden one, right? And we talk about this all the time. And what is that? Well, that is if your sales team's close rate is too low. Okay, so if your sales team's close rate is too low, guess what? You're probably not ready to scale. Okay, now again, the third and most dangerous sign is this specific one right here, which is the close rate. Okay, now here's what I see all the time. A business owner will basically, I'll have a conversation with the business owner and they'll say, well, we're getting 40 sales calls per month, but only closing 8 deals. That's a 20% close rate. We need 200 more calls to get to 40 deals. And my question to them will be something like, well, have you figured out why 32 qualified people said no in the first place, right? And then they look at me like I just asked them to solve quantum physics. And at the end of the day, it's simple math equations here. And here's another research study that backs this up specifically here. And according to CB Insights, the main reason startups fail is because they cannot find product market fit, right? But most business owners never investigate why prospects don't buy in the first place, right? And this is super, super, super easy to do, because at the end of the day, just take your sales calls, right? Take the transcripts of them. I'm sure you have an AI note taker somewhere. Take your transcripts, plug them into GPT and ask GPT these questions, right? And again, let me show you what happens when you scale with a broken close rate, okay? So in scenario 1, I wrote it down here for us so we can easily get to this. But in scenario one, let's scale without fixing, right? So we can basically say our current calls, let's just say in Fred's example here, if he gets 40 calls, okay? Out of those 40 calls, he closes 8 people. Oh, that was a terrible 8. He closes 8 people, right? Which is at a 20% close rate, right? So let's just put up here 20% close rate, and we're gonna keep that constant at a 20% close rate, okay? Now again, let's just say in Fred's example specifically, we have a 5K offer, right? So the revenue collected will be $40,000, okay? Now again, after scaling, right, he might have 200 calls. Again, this is just example purposes. Still at a 20% close rate, we'll give him 40 closes, right? And then again, if we're still closing at a 20% rate, that's 40 closes, which will be roughly 200,000 in rev. Okay, and again, no earnings claims. This is Fred's example, which is a fictitious name. We're just using examples here. Now, again, you will basically see here that the costs involved, it's 5 times more ad spend, right? 5 times more salespeople and 5 times more overhead. And the result? Well, sure, you'll get 5 times more revenue, but also your cost will increase a lot and your profit margins will basically, stay the same, okay? But again, you're tapping more of that market, right? And again, as you scale to broader and broader audiences, what is gonna happen is your customer acquisition cost is gonna keep climbing, okay? Now, let's look at scenario 2, where we're gonna fix the problem first and then we scale. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is fix the close rate from 20% to 35%. Now again, this is going to be very different in your organization, and specifically the way we're going to do this is either we're just going to retrain the rep that we currently have, or alternatively just replace them with a better rep before you go out and actually get more of the same reps. And if you don't want to go through the interview process of finding these reps, interviewing them, vetting them, doing mock calls, looking at their past calls that they've had, calling the ex-employers, that's exactly what we do here at Sales Match on behalf of our clients. And we go find the very best closers or setters that matches your offer. So if that interests you, click the link somewhere below. Let's schedule a call, let's chat, and see what we can, who we can basically find you. But again, back to this example here. If we increase just the close rate from 20% over here, right, to 35% in scenario 2, right? Let's actually see what differences make. So again, same thing, 40, same ad spend, we're still gonna get 40 calls, right? But here, when we increase the close rate from 20% to 35%, we're actually gonna have 14 closes, and at the same ticket price, that's gonna be roughly 70,000 in revenue collected, okay? Now, if we're at a 35% close rate, let's go ahead and see what it looks like if we go ahead and scale, right? So after scaling, again, we're gonna have 200 calls because we increased the ad spend, right? We're scaling here. Now, instead of having 40 closes, we're gonna have 70 closes, okay? Because we increased that close rate from 20% to 35%. And your revenue at the same ticket, right, is going to be 350K, okay? So you're going all the way from 200 to 350 by just increasing the close rate through proper training or replacing a rep with an elite rep, okay? Now again, the result here is roughly almost 9 times the amount of revenue, right? And versus 5 times the amount of cost increase, okay? So you're increasing your cost by 5x to get more leads, right? And to pay for more leads, but you are actually increasing your revenue, right? And your growth by almost 9x, okay? Now again, this is increasing the efficiency of your funnel, right? We're not tweaking the ads, we're not tweaking the ad copy of the funnel or having new creatives. We're simply utilizing and increasing the efficiency of the leads and the closes we're currently getting. Now again here, research from other sales training companies shows that proper sales training can improve close rates by 15 to 20 basis points, okay? But here's what's really crazy. Most business owners would rather spend $50,000 more on ads than $5,000 on sales training or sales recruiting, such as, the service that we provide here. And again, they'd rather hire 3 more mediocre sales reps rather than train the existing team to be excellent or hiring excellent closers or setters in the first place, okay? And this this is again the number 3 sign you're not ready to scale, is because you're trying to solve a skill problem with a volume solution. That is a no bueno solution, okay? Now, again, let's look at why scaling broken systems makes everything worse, okay? And here's what happens when you try to scale with broken system. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to go in a death spiral, okay? So specifically, you're going to hire more salespeople because you think you need more capacity, okay? And the second part of the death spiral is that now you're going to need 5 times more leads to keep everyone busy. So you increase basically your ad spend by 5x, and your cost per lead goes up because you're targeting broader and broader audiences to keep up with that volume. And what's going to happen is your lead quality is going to go down because you're casting a wider and wider net. And what's going to happen as a result of that is that your close rates are going to drop even more because the leads are less qualified. And then ultimately your salespeople are going to get frustrated because they're not hitting quota because the lead quality is getting worse and worse. And then your best salespeople are going to leave your organization. In fact, I got a stat pulled up here that research shows that 25% of annual turnover is normal, but it goes higher when performance drops. So basically when salespeople's performances drop and they can see their KPIs are going lower and lower, they are going to try and leave because a lot of times salespeople are egotistical. You're going to bruise their ego when you have a leaderboard, which you should, and then salespeople are gonna leave. And then ultimately now you need to rehire and retrain new people while trying to maintain your current revenue. And what's going to happen is your customer acquisition cost is going to spiral out of control. And I've seen this happen dozens and dozens of times. It's happened to me dozens and dozens of times before I learned these lessons. And business owners who were profitable at $50K per month in spend become unprofitable at $200,000 a month in spend because they scaled broken systems. Meanwhile, on the opposite end of the spectrum, business owners who spend 3 months or 2 to 3 months fixing their systems before scaling goes from $50K to $200K a month in ad spend, and they're actually increasing their profit margins as well. Again, it doesn't have to take as long. We place reps within 14 days if you want to use a recruiting service such as Sales Match. Again, link down below for that. Now, what is the compound effect of this efficiency, right? Or let's look at the compound effect that increasing the efficiency of your funnel will have. So when you increase your lead to call conversion from 20% to 40%, your appointment to close rate from 20 to 35%, like we just talked about, and your sales team efficiency from 28% to 60%, you don't just double your revenue. You can 4 or 5x it with the same resources. Again, this is completely different for every single business, but this is what is possible on the high end. Again, what is typical here is that you can basically bump your conversions by 20 to 30% very, very, very easily. And when I mean conversions, your bottom line as well, by just finding the right people and building the right team to work with, okay? Now, here is the right way to prepare for scale. Now, what should you do instead, right? That is a question I get all the time. I don't want to provide you guys with just, I want to basically provide you guys with solutions and actionable steps as well. Now, what should you do instead? Okay. Now, the first phase, right, which is phase 1, is you're going to audit your current efficiency. Okay. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to track every lead for 30 days, where they came from, what happened to them, every single lead. Okay. The next thing is you're going to measure your current lead to call conversion rate. Okay, and then you're going to calculate how much time your sales team actually spends on selling versus administrative tasks and so on and so forth. And then you're going to identify your true close rate by lead source, because every single lead source might have a different close rate, since maybe your organic leads will close at a higher rate than your colder audience leads. Okay, what are we going to do after that? Well, then we're going to move into phase 2, okay, which is going to be fixing your foundation. The first thing you're going to do is implement systematic follow-up sequences for unconverted leads. Okay, so this is going to be appointment setters or proper automation or combination of both of them. Okay, now the second part to phase 2 is that you're going to optimize your sales team's time allocation. Okay, you want to get them to 50% plus of the time, actually 70% plus of the time, you need your closers to be selling instead of busy with other bullshit tasks, okay? Super, super important. And then you want to improve your sales processes and training to increase those close rates, okay? And then finally, you want to test and optimize each piece before moving to the next, okay? So do all of these things before you scale, please. And now phase 3 here is going to be validating your current systems, okay? And again, these weeks over here, this is just kind of a guideline that I provided, more or less how long it can take. But again, work at your own pace. You can do this way quicker than this. I guarantee you this. This is just kind of a guideline for those people watching this that need a guideline. Now, again, when you validate your systems, you're going to run your optimized systems for a full month, okay? Then you're going to measure improvements in key metrics, track everything, okay? And then ultimately you're going to ensure your improvements are consistent and repeatable, and then you're going to document every process so it can be replicated in the future, okay? And now the fourth phase here is going to be your smart scaling phase, which again, at this point, when you found everything we've just talked about here, you're going to be in a position to scale, okay? So in the phase 4 of the smart scaling, you are now only considering increasing your ad spend here, okay? Only in phase 4. And you're only gonna hire new salespeople when existing ones are at 80% plus capacity, okay? This is super, super important. Increase the efficiency of your current sales team. And again, you're gonna scale one element at a time, not everything at once, okay? You can't do everything at once. Pick the first bottleneck and solve that bottleneck, the biggest constraint to your business, solve that, okay? And then ultimately, you're gonna monitor efficiency metrics to ensure they don't drop as you grow. So essentially what I mean by that is make sure that everything is basically scaling the way it should and there's no parts that are dropping off, okay? Now, look, I know this isn't the sexy advice you wanted to hear and everybody else is gonna tell you 10x your ad spend or hire an army of salespeople. And why that might be true, right? Again, you need to fix the broken systems before you go scale. Because again, 74% of those businesses are going to fail from scaling too quickly. And again, the research is clear. The businesses that track or that basically take time to build efficient systems before scaling are the ones that are going to create sustainable, profitable growth, right? Again, your competitors are about to make the same mistakes that kill 7 out of 10 businesses. Don't be one of them. So again, if you're looking for, appointment setters or closers to be added to your team, but you don't want to go through the constant grind of finding them, vetting them, recruiting them, calling ex-bosses, doing mock interviews, and so on and so forth. That's exactly what we do for our clients here at Sales Match. So if that interests you, where you want to concentrate on your business, and we have a fat pipeline of salespeople ready to close for you, again, click the link below, schedule a call with us, and let's see where we can take your business. Other than that, really hope this video helped, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.